Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance. I am your host, Alacia Singer.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. Welcome, everybody. How's it going today, Lacey?
Excellent. How are you doing?
Good. We got a busy day, so we're going to jump right in.
So, what are we going to talk about?
Well, we got a bunch of news to go over. So, first off, the presidential race for 2024 has already started. My God, why are elections so long in this country? Anyway, so Trump's running again, or he's declared he's running again. It looks like Ron DeSantis, who's the governor of Florida, is going to run. And he's really right wing kind of guy. And then there's some others, Nikki Haley I think she's in North Carolina or South Carolina. I think North Carolina. Anyway, so DeSantis seems to be like the biggest. Trump and DeSantis seem to be the two big contenders going forward here. So Trump, in his usual style, is he's trying out nicknames, right? Because he's got to make fun of everybody, right? Like, it was little Marco Rubio and whatnot, Lion Ted Cruz, whatever they were, right? So he's tried out some new ones, and he's got some new ones, and they're going to go over them here on Fox News, on the Fox and Friends in the morning. Trump's new nicknames for Ron DeSantis.
Are they good? Are they good nicknames? I mean, I'm kind of hoping it's going to be something like the nicknames from the girls from Flavor of Love, you know?
Oh, okay. So the one he's been going with was was Ron DeSanctimonious, and that one not a real good one. No. And then he's been calling him Meatball Ron, which I kind of like, because if you see Ron DeSantis, he looks a little bit like a meatball. So it's good. I like that one, Meatball Ron. But they found the winner. And Fox and Friends is not comfortable with it.
To vilify Jeb Bush and Paul Ryan. He says that a portion of the party that he's trying to link Ron DeSantis to. He's also working on nickname Ron Dishonest, Ron De-Establishment, or Tiny D.
So that's the winner.
Tiny D? Oh, no.
Tiny D. It's gonna be Donald Low T Trump and Ron Tiny D DeSantis in the ring for the presidential primary. So we stole this from the Young Turks, but here's Anna Kasparian. She loves it, so watch her for a second, because she's trying to hold it together, man.
Brian Kilmeade, not a fan of Donald Trump's nicknames for Ron DeSantis. He's about to explain why. Let's take a look.
I don't know. I mean, if people are uncomfortable, it's hard to label somebody who's so similar to him with a nickname. It makes everybody on all sides seemingly uncomfortable, even people reporting
it. It makes you uncomfortable. I think it's hilarious. Hey, sometimes Donald Trump falls back into some genius. It just happens every once in a while.
I don't know. I still think that the girls from the Flavor of Love could help him out with these nicknames. Give him a little more flair.
I don't know. Tiny D is a pretty good one.
Tiny D's a pretty good one, but those other ones are pretty terrible.
Yeah, they were pretty bad. Most of his suck, but sometimes he gets a good one. But yeah, Tiny D's good. So yeah, it's gonna be Donald Low Testosterone Trump versus Tiny Dick DeSantis in the ring. That's going to be the Republican presidential primary.
If the Republicans are hurling that much crap at each other, maybe they're just going to self-destruct. I don't know.
Well,
jeez.
Yeah. Poor Tiny D. He's gonna have a hard time in the primary. Tiny D. Part of the reason he calls him Tiny D is this too. Is Ron DeSantis is, I guess he's like, I don't know how tall he actually is. It's not, he doesn't report it. But Trump's 6'3", but DeSantis is 5'9". Okay. Now, we haven't had a president that was shorter than average height in forever. So I think that really bothers DeSantis that he's shorter than average height for a man in the United States. Right now, I think it's like 5'11" or something, 5 or 6 foot. It's close to that. So, Ron, Ron was on the trail in Iowa, getting ready for his presidential bid, and guess what the photographers caught? Ron sporting the heels. The 2-inch cowboy boot heels. To make
Okay, in
himself.
all fairness, maybe he just likes cowboy boots.
Oh, he likes the boots. Ron. Sporting the heels. He's got to get up there. Which is funny because this is the guy that's trying to ban all the trans shit and in Florida too.
He likes his heels.
Yeah, no kidding. On
So
top.
I gotta say, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Why do we care how tall he is? I never knew how tall he was, and I now feel really sad that there's a tiny bit of my brainwave space that's gotten taken up with the knowledge of how tall he is.
Well, that, and he does like his boots. If you haven't seen this, so when Hurricane Ian came to Florida and he went out to sort of survey stuff, this was the big famous photo of him in his boots. The big white, the white boots.
Super confused by it.
Oh yeah, he likes his boots. He's got his go-go boots.
I mean, I liked ABBA too, but he should have at least the rest of the outfit before he's gonna be wearing the boots.
Oh, Trump is gonna rip him so bad. I'm not a fan of Trump by any means, but it's one of those things where it's like those boots. He's wearing the go-go boots, just like in the Austin Power movies, just like the fembots.
Oh my!
And he came. I met Austin Powers once at CBGB in 1978. He came up to me and he said, "Mr. Trump, groovy baby." And it's true, and we're saying it more and more. So DeSantis is, already he's belly flopped on this. So things are not looking good for him. The other person running, I don't think she's running for a shot. I think she really just, thinks she's gonna step in and maybe be a vice presidential pick is Nikki Haley, because she hasn't really said much of anything, but she got out there. So here's kind of the big rift right now is DeSantis and Haley are both for cutting Social Security. That's one of their things. So they're part of those platforms. Trump is actually the only, right now, one of the few Republicans, or at least the only one running for president, who's come out and flat out said, do not cut Social Security, because he knows who his base is. And a lot of them collect Social Security, so he can't sit there and say, no, let's cut Social Security. So he's been saying, no, don't say that. So it's been kind of a rift. So Haley is out, and they ask her about, well, what about the Social Security, changing retirement for younger workers, right? And this is her response.
For the nomination of that, it was a big mistake for Republicans to even consider doing anything with Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid. That is going to guarantee defeat. I'm paraphrasing here. What do you say to that?
We have to be realistic. It is unrealistic to say you're not going to touch entitlements. The thing is, you don't have to touch it for seniors and anybody near retirement. You're talking about the new generation, like my kids coming up. You're talking about that. You've got to start thinking 10, 20, 30 years out. We can't just think about one presidential election. And we've got bigger issues, so we've got to start making bigger solutions for these problems.
So there's Nikki Haley. If you're under 55, I'm cutting your Social Security. That's right. She's cutting it for her kids. No Social Security for you. Not that her kids will need it, but I'm like, dude, you're running for president. That's your answer? That's like the worst answer. You can't even lie? I mean, cutting your Social Security, taking it away. So those are three of the presidential candidates for the primary for the Republicans. So 2 of them want to cut your Social Security. One likes his go-go boots, and the other spends all of his time thinking of cruel nicknames for the others. Remind you a little of high school?
If you would like to register for the Democratic Party, please see the link below.
So speaking of which, is a part of that is part of what they're doing, the Republican Party, to try to, and I would think this is mostly just to obfuscate, but it's also to kind of rile up some of their more bigoted members of their base, right? Which is, well, do you like Social Security? You don't like that I'm cutting it? We'll focus on this. We're gonna hate on these people, and that'll make you feel better about me cutting your Social Security. It's kind of what they're doing. But like, that's the big target for the last few years has been the transgender community, which is, I mean, can you pick a more marginalized community in this fucking country? I mean, and we're gonna hate on them more. I mean,
Yeah, like why are you going to spend your energy picking on them?
I know.
Even if you don't like them,
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense to me anyway. But even though that's where it's coming from, why are you putting your energy there?
Well, I mean, it's just a lot of it is but it's a distraction too. It's a good way to rile up their base. But they've been attacking, especially the trans and the gay community to a degree too. So a lot of states have passed bills against transgender people in sports or using bathrooms. They conform to their gender, right? Arkansas passed a law that if your kid is transgender, you can't do any treatment, any medical treatment recommended for that kid. You have to go through whatever program they want to do instead of whatever the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association, the Pediatric Association. Instead of going through them, you got to go through whatever Arkansas wants you to do, which is probably going to be torturing a kid. But I mean, it's gotten bad. So in Tennessee, they've been pushing some of this, and they passed a ban against drag shows in Tennessee recently, which is, I mean, I'm sorry, the people are always decrying.
I don't want to be spending my time in any states that I can't see
do a drag show. Yeah, but this is my point. Is like, so
that's the best theater ever.
Yeah.
Seriously.
But yeah,
good costume, good lights.
Well, A, it's a waste of legislative time and money and tax money, but B, it's, the people that are decrying freedom all the time are the ones that always try to take your freedoms away. Right? No, you can't take your kids to the doctor you want. No, you can't get an abortion. Oh, drag shows? Nope, you can't have those anymore. It's like, come on, guys. But the lieutenant governor in Tennessee, who he voted for banning the drag shows. Well, some things have come out about him, and it seems like he might be sort of thinking about maybe kind of sort of changing his mind after this little expose. It'll be funny. So this is one of the guys that voted against it.
What do you hope comes out of this?
Well, I think they'll be a lot more careful about using social media.
Amid a sudden uproar over his provocative social media interactions, Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally sits down this afternoon to answer Phil Williams' questions about the controversy.
So, shortly after this guy votes to ban, he's an anti-LGBTQ politician. Shortly after he votes for banning the drag shows in Tennessee, he gets caught on Instagram talking to a lot of young gay men. Oh yeah, some of it gets pretty graphic. So let's see how he responds to these questions.
still have value.
In a legislative session dominated by bills outlawing drag shows in public places and targeting gender care for the trans community, Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally finds himself facing accusations of hypocrisy after a progressive site unearthed his social media interactions with a 20-year-old gay model, among them provocative posts that were liked by the 79-year-old Republican, including one where the young man doesn't appear to be wearing clothes. When people see these posts, what should they take away from them?
Well, I don't know that they should take away a whole lot.
In an exclusive interview, McNally described how he
Of course. Don't take anything away from this.
befriended the young man first on Facebook, then on Instagram. Among the posts, this close-up of the young man's backside, McNally responded with 3 red hearts and 3 on-fire emojis, along with a comment, "Finn, you can turn a rainy day into rainbows and sunshine."
Just,
Oh,
That's right.
wow.
Wow.
Okay.
He's married too. I think he's a great.
Did he want to ban the drag shows because he didn't want people knowing what he was doing at them?
I don't think so. I don't know about that.
The theatrics.
Well, I mean, he's obviously
Right.
closeted homosexual. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, 18-year-old boy sends me a picture of his ass. I'm kind of like, no, thanks. I appreciate it. Appreciate the thought, but
Are they little or what? Oh my goodness.
well, I don't know. Look, I have a couple points on this. I mean, you're an 80-year-old guy. I mean, look, he's an adult. The model in the photos, he's an adult. Was an adult when this happened too, right? Nobody's doing anything illegal here. Honestly, none of this should or would really be a big deal, except for this guy is anti-LGBTQ.
Right. Nobody on Earth would care. Well, actually, maybe
Some people might, but
but
who gives
really,
a shit?
for the most part, who would care? Except that he's obviously made a big stink about having the opposite position from that in the past.
Yeah. I mean, if he was liking female models on Instagram, no one would really say much. Right.
They might say pretty old man, but
Yeah, it might be saying it's a little creepy, but because your age, but that would be about it. But yeah, no. So let's go watch. Look how red his face is. Looks like the villain from Dune, like he's about to pop. He's having a hard time here.
that, I try to encourage people with posts and try to, help them if I can.
Were you trying to help this young man in some sort of way?
Just basically trying to encourage him.
There was also this post where the
To
man
show
said
his
he was,
ass.
quote, not a whore, but a hoe. One is a slut, the other is a prostitute, adding, "I'm the one that gets free weed for giving," then a reference to
Forgiving head is what he said. Free weed, forgiving head.
keeping sunshine and rainbows.
Well, it is sunshine and rainbows. I'll give him that too.
Oh goodness. Oh gosh, that was so good. That made my day.
Oh my god.
Republicans
Three heart emojis and 3 fire emojis for that one.
That was thick.
Or as the Queens might say, I'm going to give it 2 snaps and an around the world.
Oh my god.
Okay, you're gonna wait. So he likes this post about getting free weed for head, or giving free weed for head, and this was his response. So I mean, this gets bad. He botched this whole interview.
a sexual act, and it was liked by Lieutenant Governor McNally.
Yeah. I don't know that, a lot of times on people's posts, you see the name and you see what they've written and you just press the button that says like.
So you didn't read that post?
I don't recall reading the part about the weed. I know that.
sluts and prostitutes were totally fine. It was
Give-
the weed I didn't notice.
Yeah, giving head, but the weed, I didn't see that part. That one skipped right by me. Yeah. Oh, plus I love he does the. You gotta go the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky. I did not have relations with that woman. He's trying that whole bit, and it's like, dude, we know that doesn't work. I mean,
It did not work when the Democrat did it. I don't know why you would think it's going to work when you do it.
I was gonna say, when Bill did it, we all knew. We were like, oh yeah, he nailed her. So sure, that's what's going on in Republican land. Not a ton to do with finance other than the Social Security stuff, but these guys are all kind of against Social Security. They all want to cut back that in Medicare, which would be really devastating to, I mean, what, 60 million Americans just overnight. But yeah, so that's them. They're busy talking to guys who suck dick for weeds. So 2024, everybody, Republicans. That's their new motto. Well,
Again, if you are interested in registering as a Democrat, please see the link below.
oh, Jesus. Okay, well, so we'll jump into some finance news here. So Biden did his budget proposal. We're going to go through it real quick. I'm not going to go into detail, mainly because a lot of it is just he doesn't expect any of this to pass, and it's not. And then a Republican House, it's not gonna. They're gonna shoot down all this. But what he did was he basically he took a hard turn to the left and went pretty progressive with his budget proposal. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, when I saw it, I almost thought like did freaking Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren write this thing? Because it doesn't seem like a Biden budget proposal. But Fox News is fucking not happy about it. They're gonna let you know right here. They're gonna be very upset.
What he makes of that best-selling author, former Trump senior economic advisor.
Whoops.
Steve, I don't know where this goes, but I'm wondering if the president knows it doesn't go very far, but he's calling out Republicans to say, I have a plan to shore up Medicare. Where's yours? What do you think?
Well, look, it is true. This budget, thank God, is going nowhere. I've been in this business for 35 years, and I would have to say this is a fiscal atrocity. It's probably the worst.
Fiscal atrocity. So let me give you some background here. So this guy, Steve Moore, this is what they're complaining about. So Biden's budget proposal raises the well, it's 6.5 trillion over the next 10 years, right? So that's the assumed raising potentially of the national debt, right? Now you're sitting there thinking, "Ooh, that's 6.5 trillion seems like a lot of money." It's actually not, because in Trump's 4 years, with this guy Steve Moore, who's about to talk, they raised the debt by over 8 trillion. Which was about the same as Obama did in 8 years. So they raised it more than any other president in the history of this country, right? The thing about Biden's budget that's pissing them off is Biden's budget also has $5 trillion worth of revenue to offset that, and it's all taxes on the rich and the wealthy. That's what they're pissed about, is he wants to do a lot of wealth tax, up corporate tax, all that stuff. And he wants to use that money to fund, he's going to increase the military, which is fine, but that's his choice. But to fund Social Security and Medicare fully going forward, and to make sure that we're going to add a bunch of other social safety net programs to help people get out of poverty. So this whole thing they're upset about is, well, wait, so now you're going to take from the rich and give to the poor? It's not the way we do things in America. We cut taxes on the rich and we raise them on the poor. That's how we do it in America. But this is the guy that, under Trump, blew up the national debt more than any other president in history. This guy was the economist, the economic advisor, who did that, and now he's going to bitch about this.
Budget I've seen in terms of what its impact would be on the economy. It would be a killer. We'd have the highest tax rates in the world. We'd have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. Our personal income tax rates would go maybe not to the highest in the world, but pretty close.
Personal income tax rates wouldn't go up unless you were making over like whatever it was, like $4 million a year or something like that.
That. So none of that is going to go anywhere with the Republican House. But here's why this is so important, Neil. This is sort of the blueprint for where progressive Democrats want to take the country. And I think it's really indicative that there's no cuts in here, that it's all tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend.
Well, it is. Increase the Medicare payroll tax on people making more than $400,000 a year. I'm for it. So right now, if you guys don't know what that means, so in Medicare and Social Security, if you make more than a certain amount a year, I think it's like 400,000 is what he's got here for Medicare. I don't know exactly what it is for Social Security off the top of my head, but if you make more than that, well, I know it's for Social Security, it's 140, I think. So if you make more than that, you don't have to pay Social Security on every dollar above that amount. Right? So if you make 200,000 a year, you're not paying Social Security on whatever it is, 60 grand, something like that. Well, if you take that cap away and these people have to pay Social Security on all their income like everybody else, then guess what? Social Security is no longer, I mean, it's flush. It's going to have plenty of money. This whole, well, it's going to run out of money, right? In 10 years, that goes away. It's fully funded. He's doing the same thing with Medicare. So his whole problem is Biden's plan doesn't cut anything. What he's doing is he's just raising taxes to pay for everything. But he's raising it on the wealthy and corporations, not on anybody who's, in the bottom 90% of the country. Or 80%, 85%. It's just the top 15 or 20%.
Yeah, seriously, I mean, nobody wants to feel like they're being nickel and dimed to death, but the bracket of people he's talking about, generally speaking, have the money. Why are we worrying about it?
And they pay the least percent in taxes.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he just said, let's start taxing them what we tax everybody else.
I sure pay my share every year, that's
right.
for sure.
I'm okay with it. So anyway, it's not none of that's going to pass, but at least it's basically Biden saying, this is what my next, if he runs, what it looks like he's setting up to run again, he's basically saying, this is what my next 4 years is going to be. This is what I'm going to be focused on, is this shit. Yeah. So good news for that. I mean, so good for him. I mean, I thought it was pretty progressive, pretty aggressive move on his part. But yeah, it's pretty hard turn to the left. But I think Biden's got the right idea. He's going after the younger generations and saying, hey, you guys have got the shit end of the stick. We're going to try and do something to fix that. As opposed to the Republicans who are too busy, liking gay models on Instagram while trying to ban drag shows. Thinking of stupid nicknames for each other. Man. So, anyway, we'll do one more thing with the news. So people have been talking a lot about us going into a recession. So it looks like that's probably going to be likely. Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Federal Reserve Bank, is going to raise rates probably again. And the idea behind this is they've been raising interest rates a lot. And this affects what banks can lend at. And so when you raise rates, it shrinks the amount banks can loan, right? And it costs more to businesses to borrow. This tends to then shrink the job market, cause less jobs, which ideally what they're trying to do is stifle wages, to keep wages down, because wages have been growing pretty quick.
So, Duncan,
I
don't want to take too much of like a left turn here,
No.
But from the perspective of the average person, when the Fed raises rates,
Mm-hmm.
what does the average person notice in terms of their savings and the cost to them when they're borrowing money? What does that look like?
To the average person, so if you're borrowing for a car or you're borrowing for a house, the interest rate that you'd have to pay back will be higher. Right.
And so if I were to get a new loan as they're raising rate, I'm going to be paying more because I'm going to get a rate that's not as advantageous to me regardless of my credit and compared to before.
Right.
Simultaneously, in my savings, I'll see a higher rate too. So I'll theoretically, I would make more on my savings account, wouldn't I?
No.
No.
Your savings account is going to be the same. This is for interbank borrowing. This has nothing to do with your interest in your accounts.
So it doesn't really change the base rate on which my rates in my accounts are based, with the exception of new loans.
No, this is just the borrowing rate.
So really, all the way around, for the average person, it's a crappy deal. They're not getting a good end of the stick anyway, because it's not going to help them in their savings.
No,
it's only going to hurt them in their new borrowing.
Right. So the Fed's big concerns are So the Fed's big concerns are inflation and employment, theoretically. And inflation's been high. I mean, it was up to like 12% last year. It's down to like 6 something now. So by raising rates, what happens is it costs more money for businesses to borrow money. So businesses have less cash on hand. So what ends up happening is businesses tend to lay people off or not hire. So it shrinks the number of jobs in the market, right?
Sure. They don't want to spend as much because they don't have as much literally sitting there.
Yeah, and they don't have access to loans that are affordable, right? So that's generally what happens. So their concern is this: is right now inflation rates are high, right? Even though they have been coming down, they're still really high. You want that ideally to be about 2.5% to 3%. You don't want it to be much higher than that. And so right now it's 6.5 or whatever. So it's pretty high. So they're concerned about inflation being an issue. So they figure, okay, we think the main cause of that is wages, not the supply chain, not coming out of a recession, not the fact that while people were in COVID, they weren't spending money and they got some stimulus. And so Americans, especially middle class and upper middle class people, were able to save almost $1 trillion combined. And now they're spending a lot of that money. So demand's artificially a little bit high. They're not factoring all these other things that go in to it. They think wages are the main cause, right? And if wages are the main cause of inflation, well, we need to stamp down on wage growth to lower inflation. That's their thought process. So this is what they're doing. They're calling it a soft landing. Essentially what they're doing is they're going to raise rates again, force a contraction in the job market, which will cause hopefully a temporary recession, right? And the idea is that wages will stop growing and that'll bring down inflation. Okay, their argument is if we don't do this, then wages will keep growing, and then what'll happen is businesses, because they have to pay more, will then inflate their prices, so inflation will grow, and then workers will demand more money, and then you'll have a cycle where this keeps going, right? The other side of that coin, where if they're wrong and wages aren't the problem, right, then what'll happen is they'll force a recession here where wages will stop growing, but it won't affect inflation, and inflation can continue to go up, or inflation could stay where it's at. And if that's the case, your money's not growing as fast as the cost. So now when it is a situation called stagflation, which means now people can't afford to do stuff, so they're cutting back more and more and more and more, but it's not affecting inflation. And if you're in that situation, then you're talking about depression. Almost always leads to a depression. So they're playing kind of a dangerous game of chicken here. Now, the markets are not happy about it. Wall Street is definitely not happy about it. And the other sort of solution, and this has been kind of being pushed, is it's actually more of a progressive solution, but Wall Street seems to be pretty much behind it, which is, why don't you not do anything for 3 to 6 months? Because inflation's been steadily going down. So there's really no need to do anything at this point. And if inflation continues to go down, then there's no need to do anything. But if inflation all of a sudden stables or starts to go up, then there'd be a need to do something, right? And that's kind of the attitude. And that's, so it's like, why is this impetus to push this now? And here's a professor, this is Squawk Box. They've got a professor from Wharton at University of Pennsylvania, and he's gonna sort of explain his theory on this, but he hammers the point home like right out of the gate.
Jeremy Siegel's here, Professor Emeritus of Finance at University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. I'll just ask you the question I was asking Steve. What's your expectation? Are you at a 50 or 25 for next week?
Well, first let me say that I think that the Fed policy is very misguided. Let me tell you why. This month is the third anniversary of the COVID crisis, March 2020. Over that period, wages have gone up less than inflation. It's hard.
And that's it. We'll watch some more of it, but you can't say wages are driving inflation when the wage growth is less than inflation. They've gone up less, and he's going to get in and hammer it home even more. But I think he's just basically made the argument that I was trying to make. He just made it quicker. But yeah, I mean, he's right.
Hard to argue the wages are cause of inflation when they've gone up less than inflation. By the way, through history, wages usually go up 1 to 2% a year above inflation. So workers are way behind where they normally are over the last 3 years. But more importantly, Jay Powell himself has said there's a structural shift downward in the labor supply. Well, listen, Economics 101 says if there's a reduction in supply, we have to increase the real wage to clear the market.
And so there it was. And he's right. It's Econ 101. There's a decrease in supply, you have to increase wage. Otherwise, you run into other inflationary problems. I'm not going to get into a big chart about it, but he's right. There's a lot of questions about why. I guess my speculation, and I want to throw this out, just my speculation is part of this is Powell is getting probably a lot of pressure from the Chamber of Commerce because wages are going up faster than they have in a long time, because they've been flat for a long time, and now they're starting to go up. A lot of businesses are not happy, especially big corporations are not happy about that because it eats into their bottom line. And so there's some pressure on him, probably from them going, hey, we want you to tamp down on wages because we don't want the workers making more money. We don't want to have to pay, equal wages that we would have probably in the 80s for the same job. So I'm guessing that's a lot of it. And, it's a little, I think, irresponsible on his part. I agree with Professor Siegel here, which is just, it's misguided because you're going to risk a minor recession, which is going to hurt millions and millions of people. People are going to lose their jobs. It's going to affect millions of people's lives. And you're going to be in a position where you're basically playing chicken with stagflation and a depression. Why? Because you're upset that people are making more an hour. So I don't know if you had any more thoughts about that, but I thought, just to give you sort of a rundown of what that argument was. Did you have anything else on?
No, it's just so interesting why you would want to play a game of chicken like that when it seems like it might make more sense just to ride it out a little bit.
Yeah, but I think
you could always make that move. You could kick that move down the road a little. You know what I mean? Save that move.
Yeah, but
and sort of ride this out and see how it settles.
Yeah, but if I'm Amazon and I'm Jeff Bezos, these wage increases in the cities, or a lot of the cities are raising minimum wages. This is probably really dipping into my profits. And so, yeah, I'm probably calling the Chamber of Commerce, and, you know, I'm probably trying to call Jerome Powell, pressure on him. And that might be where he's getting a lot of his pushback from. But I don't know. I'm only speculating, but it only really
Mr.
benefits.
Powell, who do you work for, Mr. Powell?
Yeah. Well, he's appointed. He's supposed to be working. He's supposed to be the banker for the U.S. government, but, you know, he's also got to think about what's his career going to be like after he leaves that job. You never know. He's going to get some cushy job at a bank. So, speaking of, so that was all the basic news stuff, but kind of just in relation, because we were going through that. The other thing that the Republicans pushing is this thing called the Fair Tax Act. So so the other thing is the Fair Tax Act. So this is something the Republicans have been trying to push for a while, and it basically revamps the entire tax system. Now we're going to watch our good friend Dave Ramsey. He's a big fan of the Fair Tax Act, and we're going to watch a little bit of it. Then I'm going to go through it with you and show you what it does. It'll be educational and fun, children.
I was wondering if you have an opinion on the proposed Fair Tax Act that would eliminate federal taxes, impose a national sales tax on new goods purchased, and eliminate the IRS as we know it. That's the perfect question for the two of us. I don't know two people that hate taxes more than me and Dave Ramsey. Well, I've always been a fan of this. In fact, I lived for years in Atlanta, and Neil Bortz, who was a well-known local talk radio guy, you're probably friends with Neil.
I know Neil well.
He was a big proponent of this and wrote a book
on his show several times back in the day talking about this.
Yeah, and I like
best-selling book on
this very issue. And I'm not going to endorse the book, nor am I going to endorse the policy, but I like the direction that it's heading, and I'll tell you why. I think a sales tax, it forces the consumer to kind of deal with it, and it's not the federal government mandating what is taken from my income.
Okay. So that's part of it. So what it does, the first thing it does is it basically eliminates the IRS. No more income taxes. Right? What it does is it replaces all that income tax, state, local tax, all that stuff with one sales tax, national sales tax that everybody pays on goods and services.
So would that mean that rather than like each state has sort of a different amount of tax, sales tax, and some don't have any at all, the same one would be imposed on everybody?
Every state would have the same sales tax. The sales tax that it would have to be in order to kind of meet the current level of tax income, right? Which you'd have to do, otherwise it'd be devastating, is 30%. So you have to pay 30% on every good you bought. So if you went to the store and bought a candy bar for $1, you're paying $1.30.
If I bought my next pair of sneakers for $100, they'd be $130 sneakers. Right.
This is
well, I guess trying to think about how I feel about that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. You know, obviously that would feel like a sticker shock, but my paycheck would be a lot higher because they wouldn't have to withhold from it, right?
Yeah, maybe not. Your paycheck would be higher, but this is what it effectively does. And I just did two quick examples just to show you guys this is how the Fair Tax Act affects you. Okay? I can see why Ramsey likes it, but I can see where this is kind of a different deal. So, if you make $60,000 a year, right? Currently, this is, kind of rough estimate. This is sort of the averages. Single person, you're making $60,000. Your taxable income after deductions would be about $47,050. Estimate you'd owe about $5,900 in tax, right? Some of that you might get back after deductions and stuff, but you'd pay about $5,900, $6,000 in tax. So the tax bracket you'd be in would be the 22%, but your effective tax rate, the amount of tax you paid on the amount of money that was taxable, was 12.7%. So that's what you paid in tax. And the total tax percentage of your total income, your gross income, would have been 9.95%. That's how much you'd have paid in tax. Okay? And that's the current system. Under the Fair Tax Act, that same person making $60,000 has no taxable income, right? The income's not taxed. Average spending on goods and services for a person making 60 is about $50,000 a year. So they'd incur a sales tax of $15,000 as opposed to their $5,900 in income tax, right? And their effective tax rate would be the 30% sales tax. So the total tax percentage of their income would be 25%. So you'd go from 9.95% of your total income to 25% of your total income would be taxed. So you'd pay $9,000 more in taxes, roughly.
So the average person would be paying more.
Triple.
Okay, so I do want to point out what feels like the obvious, though.
Sure.
And it would certainly be an argument I would expect them to make, although I'm going to say I have not watched this clip, so
I haven't watched all of it either. I just watched the first part.
It being dependent on what you spend does mean that there is kind of some variance in what you would be paying in taxes.
Right. But if
I'm going to be really honest with you, I really don't spend very much money. I mean, I grocery shop like anybody else does and whatnot, but I'm very much a planful spender, and therefore I am going to bet that I would probably come in under that. Now, would I make out as well as in the current system? I don't know, but I do think I would probably come out a little bit better than.
No. You'd still be paying a lot more in tax.
I might be, yeah.
Yeah, even if you were paying, even if you only spent half the money on rent and food and shit like that, you would still be coming out, right? So the other issue is that you're talking about, because rent would actually have a sales tax attached to it too, just FYI. So rents would go up, but you're also talking about this, Lacey. You're single, you don't have kids, so you don't need to spend as much.
I literally am talking about me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And
going back to just like we were talking about this person last week who was only talking about themselves, and comparing that to an average, I am pointing out to you, I am only talking about me.
Right. The other thing about that,
not the average person that's got 3 kids.
The other thing
if
about
I had 3 kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yikes! That gets way scarier.
Right. Well, and the other thing about that too, which is interesting, is so now if you do something like that, it's going to be people already right now are having less children because the cost is the main reason. Now you're going to increase costs, so we're going to be less people.
Can you imagine the sheer number of people that would be saying, okay, before I was saying I couldn't afford to have kids, and now I literally cannot afford to have kids.
On top of that fact is what you'll see is people probably would start spending a lot less, or they start buying under the table. So
Duncan, I mean, some of the questions that feel really obvious to me, but I'm going to throw it out there because I have not done any homework on this, Fair Tax Act. I have not.
Sure.
So the questions that feel obvious to me are, gee, if that was a thing that happened, okay, so in the example, you showed me that they wouldn't be taking income tax out of my paycheck because I'd be paying it at the register instead.
Right.
What about my property tax? Would I be having a property tax, or does that go away?
No,
my property tax.
They're kind of unclear about that. There would be some sales tax involved with rent or purchasing, but not necessarily an annual tax. So if
So it's like, would there be a tax on my mortgage, but would my property tax go away, or would I still pay my annual property taxes?
No, there wouldn't be a tax on your mortgage. So let's say you bought the place for $300,000. All right, and purchasing the place, they would tax 30% on top. So you would actually be taking out a mortgage for $390,000.
Right, because my whatever 30% tax would be thrown in there.
It would be upfront.
It would be an upfront tax. And then I would probably not have property taxes attached to it like I do now.
No, not going forward.
Because I paid my 30% at the time of purchase.
Right. But think about how much higher.
It would be really interesting to see, and I know clearly we don't have that example because I'm thinking about this now. It would be interesting to see, a comparison of what that looks like financially for a person if they, don't have property taxes but have 30% attached to the purchase of their home up front versus having property taxes through all of these years the way they do now, like comparing on the purchase of a home. I would be curious how that would.
Well, you'd be paying a lot more in interest because you'd be paying an extra 30% on top to begin. Right. On top of that fact, what you've done is you've priced out most middle-income people out of the market.
Well, yeah, and
middle and lower, especially lower income.
Okay, and let's ignore the pricing out part for just a minute. Like, hold that to the side and stop and think. People who were not priced out would also not be able to afford to buy as much property or in as preferable of neighborhoods. Probably, like it would change what they could buy.
Right.
Which can also cycle back to the I can't afford to have kids thing because I can't even afford a home that would be big enough for.
Well, and if I'm making $35,000 a year, I'm already kind of scraping by. Now I can barely afford to live, if at all, right? Because the cost of everything. So now what you've done is you've increased poverty, you've decreased spending overall, right? Which is part of the consumer price index, it's part of the gross domestic product, gross national product. People are going to be spending less because 30% of everything they spend is going to go to tax. And who spends most of the money? The bottom 80%, because they have to. And so
we were looking at somebody who is paying 60 or making 60. But what about somebody who's making 30 that's already just like barely under the current system, managing?
Right. So what you've basically done is you priced everybody who's not in the top 10% out of the market for the most part. So they're spending less and less because 30% of everything they spend goes to tax, right? So what ends up happening is gross national product falls, right? Gross domestic product falls, demand falls. You know what the demand's going to be? The black market. Because if I'm going to buy a pair of shoes, I'm better off buying them under the table illegally. So now you're going to have more expenses for policing this whole system. How are you going to enforce any of this? It's going to be you're going to have to have entire divisions of police that are just looking for people trying to avoid tax by buying products under the market or buying them secondhand. Because if I buy it at a garage sale, how are you going to track that I didn't pay the 30% tax? Right? So what you've done is you basically stifled the economy. You basically trashed the economy because now spending is going to decrease tremendously. Plus, like you said, less kids, less workers. Wage demand is going to go up through the fucking roof. It's going to be, it's just, there's no good answer to this, but here's, I can see why Dave and those guys like it, but they're not thinking big picture. They never do. But here's why they like it. I'm going to give you my second example. So let's say I have a guy making $170,000 a year or more. All right. So this person is in the top, 1% of earners in the United States. They're the highest paid people in the U.S., 170,000 or more. So this person's making 170. Currently, their taxable income after deductions would be about $157,000. the estimate that they'll owe is $31,000 in taxes for income tax. So their tax bracket's 24%. Their effective tax rate would only be 20.1%, and the total tax percentage on their income would be 18.5. Okay? So they're making almost 3 times this guy, and they're paying about twice the percentage in tax, even though they're making 3 times more on a progressive tax system. Now, under the Fair Tax Act, my 1%er here, still making us 170. Taxable income would be 0. Average spending on goods, because he makes so much money, he spends less percentage of his income on goods and services because he saves a lot or invests or does other things. So he's only spending about $85,000 a year compared to my other guy who was spending 50, almost all of his money, 90%. This guy's only spending half. So his sales tax incurred would only be $25,500, right? My other guy's sales tax incurred was $15,000 on his third. This guy's effective tax rate would still be the 30% of sales, but his tax percentage of income, of his total income, would go down to 15 from 18, right? So he'd save $6,000 a year in taxes. So the way this system works is it's a regressive tax system. So a progressive tax system, the more you make, the more you get taxed. In a regressive tax system, the more you make, the less you get taxed. This system is designed to be a regressive system, so the richer you are, the less you pay in tax. The poorer you are, the more you pay in tax. Because if you're only making $10,000 a year, all that money is going to goods and services. And now you have to live on 30% less. As if I'm rich, I'm not spending most of my money, or all of my money. I'm saving big portions of it, investing it, or buying businesses, or doing shit like that. Right? So I'm actually making more money and paying less in tax. So I just get richer and richer and richer. So this system is a backwards example. It's designed to take from the poor and give to the rich, as opposed to a progressive tax system designed to take from the rich and give to the poor.
Progressive is like Robin Hood.
Right, more or less.
Progressive is like, I don't know what, not Robin Hood.
It doesn't always work. Like in our tax system is a progressive tax system, but we've got so many tax cuts and loopholes and stuff that the rich generally pay less than we do. And the Trump tax cuts gave $2 or $3 trillion in tax cuts to the wealthy. You and I aren't going to see any of that. But they like it. They also like the Trump tax cuts too, but it's the world we're living in. But we'll watch
the Trump tax cuts. I remember when that happened. I remember all this excitement about the $30 more we were going to see in our paychecks. That was about what it translated into. $30. I saw $30 more in my paycheck.
But what ended up happening?
And then what ended up happening, for the first time in my life, I started owing at the end of the year. Now, we could do the math on it here. $30 per paycheck, and I'm paid twice per month. Mm-hmm. I owed that first year something to the tune of $2,200 to $2,400 just to the Fed. And then I owed state too. I don't remember how much to state. It was under $1,000, but I don't remember how much. But I remember owing, it was somewhere between $2,200 and $2,400 to the federal government for the first time in my life.
Well,
which is significantly more than the $30 they gave me in my paycheck.
Right. And if you look at it from the way it was designed by Paul Ryan, and they even went through this when it happened, and I remember going through it with my clients, because what ended up happening was the first 2 years you got some of these tax breaks, and some people did get some money back, and it was their taxes were lowered. But by year 3, all that sunsetted, and your taxes actually went up. As for all the tax cuts to the wealthier people, all those were permanent.
Okay, I just did the math here. So they put $720 into my paycheck over the course of a year,
Yeah.
and then
You owe $2,400.
had me pay them like $2,300.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happened to a lot of people. But that
So
bottom.
the money they put me in there cost me $1,400.
Yeah.
If you want to do the math that way, roughly.
Yeah, well, the Trump tax cuts actually increased the taxes on most people. So you pay more now in tax after Trump than you did before he came in office, unless you're making a ton of money or you're a multimillionaire. But let's watch that. They're going to talk about this a little bit more. I'm kind of curious. I haven't seen this whole thing, but I'm kind of curious to what they say because we just went over it, and this really is a regressive system designed to give huge advantages to the rich. But I'm wondering what their justification for it is, because it's got to be bullshit.
I like the flat tax idea, which is really the guts of what Neal Boortz was kind of proposing, and that's everybody pays the same tax rate. There's this cultural divide now that the media and a lot of people on the left have created this fairness doctrine that the person who makes more should have to pay a higher percentage, and it's become this virtuous idea. And in all reality, if you look at the actual data, now folks, some of you are going to get offended right now, and that's okay, but here's what I want you to do. While you're getting offended, I want you to actually go on this thing called Google, and I want you to do your own research. Be brave enough to research what I'm saying, because here's what you'll find. Most people in America, in fact, it's right below 50%, I believe.
It's now 51%.
51%, Dave corrects me, don't pay any federal income tax.
Well, that's true. And we've gone through that before. But you know what they do pay? Consumption tax, payroll tax, state and local tax. And they pay a lot more percentage-wise than Dave Ramsey does every year in tax. Do you remember that?
Yep.
So
some of them would be people who would own houses, in certain brackets. So some of them property tax on top of it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that video real quick, but we'll go back through it because we've done this so many times. Here it is.
Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes.
Of course, we have to do an ad anyway. But
We'll do your
so yeah, we'll walk through it. So this explains real quick. We're just gonna do the real quick beginning and ending of this. So these people
in America. This person on the left, she represents the poorest 10% of Americans, and on the right, he is the very richest 10%. So let's
just skip to the
end. You
end.
can see that poor people pay a much larger portion.
So consumption taxes, lower classes pay more, right? Which is already sales tax. That's what they're talking about. These people pay more than the richest people in sales tax. And they're talking about let's raise the sales tax. So these numbers are going to go up from whatever is 10, 12 now to 30%. To the very top of the scale for these people. I mean, it's going to go there for everybody, but for these people, they pay less.
When we put these taxes together, suddenly we see a big change.
But you notice the purple is income tax. If you take income taxes away, now the richest people are paying even less than the poorest people. The poorest people are paying the most, percentage-wise. That's what's so fucking sneaky about this. And he's saying that's fair. That's what fair is. That's his whole argument. And we're going to... So we'll skip it. I'm going to do one more video here. This is Robert Reich. He was an advisor under Obama, but he's going to talk a little bit about taxes, progressive taxes, and how that worked in two different experiments.
Conservatives have been telling us that a healthy, business-friendly economy depends on low taxes, few regulations, and low wages. Are they right? Well, we've had an experiment going on here in the United States that provides an answer. At the one end of the scale are Kansas and Texas, with among the nation's lowest taxes, least regulations, and lowest wages. At the other end is California, featuring among the nation's highest taxes, especially on the wealthy, lots of regulations, particularly...
So Kansas and Texas moved to a regressive tax system thinking it would drive in more business and drive up their economy. California didn't really do that, but it's not intentionally, but that's just how it is in California. Is it's reversed. It's very progressive in California because they have high taxes.
So Texas and Kansas did something that is more like
more
what the Fair
akin.
Tax Act sort of proposes, like
Right.
more closer to that.
Ideologically closer to that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. California did something that was like what we had, only they did it more progressive than the U.S. does it. California's got a more progressive tax system, but he's going to tell you what happened to these three states.
When it comes to the environment and high wages. So according to conservative doctrine, Kansas and Texas ought to be booming and California ought to be in the pits. Actually, it's just the opposite. For years now, Kansas's rate of economic growth has been the worst in the nation. Last year, its economy actually shrank. Texas hasn't been doing all that much better. Its rate of job growth has been below the national average. Retail sales are way down. Value of Texas exports has been dropping. But what about so-called overtaxed, overregulated, high-wage California? California leads the nation in the rate of economic growth, more than twice the national average.
So I'm just going to stop in there. And not to say California doesn't have its problems and everything, but the thing about it is, if you took California out separately from the United States, California is the 7th largest economy in the world. Just by itself. So, yeah. Higher taxes, higher wages, more progressive tax system. Always better than a regressive tax system. It's always worked better. If you have too much circulating at the top and nothing at the bottom, then what's your workforce doing? I mean, what's the point? Right? If you can't, I mean, you work 2 jobs and still make nothing. So, anyway, so just to look at all those things combined, the progressive tax system, kind of where the conservatives are going is they want to go to more of an aggressive system. They want to take away the safety nets. They honestly want to make things worse for poor people and middle class people, and make them really great for that top, 1 to 4 or 5%. So I just think it's odd. But anyway, we'll do one more thing and then we'll wrap up here. Do you want to do a cage match? Always. All right. So I've got the Dave Ramsey Show. We're going to do a cage match. For those of you who haven't seen a cage match, this is how it works. Lacey and I have not seen this clip. I just picked a clip by title. We're going to play it. Lacey's going to see if she can guess what's going to happen. And I'm going to see if I can out-financial plan what they're doing. So this is the Dave Ramsey Show. The title of the video, 7 steps that can make you a millionaire in 12 years. And I was like, ooh, millionaire in 12 years. I want to know that.
Isn't it just going to be their plan in their book?
It might be. I don't know.
Isn't it just the baby steps?
Well, if that's your call, you're probably right. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I mean, we haven't even started the clip yet, so
Lacey's already like, I already fucking know what this is.
The question is, it would be hilarious if I won before the clip started because I don't offer ringside commentary before we start a clip.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I just said
based on the title, it sounds like it's their baby steps.
Oh, I thought he was going to say something more like, "This is how you Yeah, I thought maybe he'd be talking to somebody and telling him this is how to do it, but we'll see. Let's see what he says.
I mean, I kind of hope it's something different than the baby steps because it would be interesting. But
Yeah, well, let's see what he does.
Around Ramsey was because many years ago, decades ago, people came to me and they said, what do you do first? Do you do retirement first, or do I do kids' college first? That's very important. Do I have an emergency fund first? That's really important. I need to get rid of this stupid crap.
What was that?
I'm about to be right. I'm pretty sure I'm about to be right
Really?
before the video started.
That is so.
Credit card debt's 22%. That's very important. Where
Oh God.
do I start? And what we did at the time, many years ago, was we laid it out, and then we adjusted it a couple of times in the early days. We only adjusted it in 25 years. But we laid out what to do first, what to do second, and we call them the baby steps.
Oh God, you did. You called it. Wow, you called it. I didn't. I just read the title and put it on. Wow, you called it right out of the gate. I thought he was going to take a call.
Do I get like a double win if we didn't even play the clip and I've already said what they're gonna do? I feel like I gotta get like some like double word score, triple.
No. It's the same score. It's just much more impressive.
It's just way better.
Right.
It's okay.
You
So
just.
I guess now we're gonna see you outplan the baby step. Is there a question attached though? I don't.
Well, I'm hoping he gets
the
it.
question is, how do I become a millionaire in 12 years?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is how does he become a millionaire in 12 years? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because he obviously knows, so we'll see.
Wait, hold on.
So if you want
before you start here, okay, paying off the house is always a big part of his thing.
Sure.
And he always says that in their millionaire study, which we say is not a study, but we'll set that aside.
Yeah.
Their millionaire studies suggest that people that become millionaires tend to pay their house off in, I forget the average is around 10 years.
Yeah.
So somehow I'm guessing a part of his plan means that your millionaire is your net worth millionaire rather than like $1 million in actual cash. Probably has to do with having a paid for house.
Oh, that's a good point. So okay, so let's assume this.
So it's probably going to be a paid for house. Man, if I get like I feel like I might be on my way to a double wing here by saying what he's going to say before he says it.
So let's do this.
He's going to say, okay, it's going to be a millionaire on the basis of having a paid for home and having invested enough into retirement accounts, like the 15% that they suggest into retirement accounts while paying off the house. And that can be achieved with a debt-free status in 12 years, putting you technically at millionaire status.
Okay, so let's assume this. So let's assume, because most people, about half their money is in their house, half their net worth. Okay, so let's assume what you have to have in investment savings, whether it's retirement or other, is $500,000.
Right. Let's say 500,000 is your house and 500,000 investment, retirement accounts, etc. Probably.
Okay, let me get my calculator. I'll start.
At least that would be a reasonable thing to throw in there as a ballpark.
Yeah, it would be fair. And then what is
getting double win? This is my show. This is my hour, man.
What does he do for percent? It's 12%, right? Is what he guarantees.
Yeah, he likes to say that you can get 12%,
which is ridiculous. But okay, well, I'll go with his numbers. But we'll say 500,000 at 12%. Okay, and we'll watch this, and I'll do math while we watch this, and we'll see.
Get control of your money. You do it a step at a time. Baby steps. Baby step 1 is you save $1,000 quickly. Little starter emergency fund. Once you've done that, and some of you just have that money, you just name it that just now. You've already did baby step 1. You just reset that money in your mind over to the side. That's baby step 1. Baby step 2 is you pay off all of your debt except your home using the debt snowball. The debt snowball is where you list your debts smallest to largest, pay minimum payments on everything but the little one. You attack the little one with a vengeance. You're not going on vacation. You're in debt. You're broke. You're not going out to eat. You're in debt. You're broke. You work all the time. You're in debt. You're broke. There's a great place to go when you're broke, to work. Okay? This is what you do. And you bust your butt. And it's scorched earth. No lifestyle. No nothing. You sell so much stuff the kids think they're next. You name the dog eBay and the cat Craigslist. Everything's going out the door. We're getting this mess cleaned up.
Jeez, he loves the televangelist yelling shit, doesn't he? Is that just me, or is he just fucking...
Scare him straight into heaven and scare him straight into being rich.
Dude, lay off the Adderall, bro.
We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. People that do it with that intensity get out of debt in an average of about 18 to 24 months. Now, average means that some of you have $500,000 of student loan debt like Jay did. Took her 7 years. Okay. And then average means some of you have $5,000 in debt and $10,000 in your bank account when you heard me rant, and you just went and paid it off. Now you're debt free. Took you 13 seconds. Okay. But the average is 18 to 24 months. Then when you finish that with the same level of intensity, you continue. We call this gazelle intensity, the gazelle running from the cheetah for its life. When you get out of debt, you finish baby step 3 with the gazelle intensity, and that's 3 to 6 months of expenses. Then we turn off the intensity and we move from intensity to intentionality, and we do baby steps 4, 5, and 6 simultaneously. That's 15% of your income going into retirement. That's what's going to make you a baby steps millionaire in about 12 years following this plan. You're going to put money into kids' college if that's applicable, and you didn't sell them off.
Okay, so he's saying 12 years, you save for 15%, he said, right?
Yes.
For 12 years, and you'll be a millionaire.
Okay, no. So he's basically saying the baby steps 1, 2, and 3, which is getting out of debt and basically your 3 to 6 months of emergency fund, is going to be roughly a 2-year span.
Sure.
And the other 10 years is going to be paying off your house and saving for retirement. So we want to probably assume.
Well, no, because they do the paying off the house
they're putting
first.
15. No.
He said pay off the house.
No, you do those at the same time.
Hang on. Okay.
You're putting 15% into retirement, and all your leftover money is paying off the house and putting something into your kids' college fund. But there's not a specific dollar amount being applied to that. You just do it.
Okay.
So you can assume 10 years of investing 15% into your retirement account, and that same 10 years you're paying off your house. Maybe you'll pay off your house before 10 years. He doesn't say that exactly, but by 10 years you paid off house.
I did it for 12. Let me do this. We'll do it for 10. You're saying 10.
Do it for 10 because you got to subtract out the get debt free time slot.
Right. So, all right, let me do this. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen.
Financial plan on the fly.
Yeah.
See,
well,
real magic is done. You got a napkin there, right? Tell me this is on a napkin. It's way better on a napkin.
No, I have a legal pad, but
Well, I want my financial plan on a bar napkin.
okay. So we'll do. First, I ran it at 12, and I looked that up, and then I ran it at 10. So, if I'm saving for 12 years at 12% interest, and I want to get to 500,000, right? Because half that money's in my house, the other half the savings 500,000. I have to save $20,718 a year.
So basically, you have to max out your 401k while paying off your house in that time frame.
Right, but if that's 15% of my income, then he's assuming my income is $138,000 a year or more.
So for a married couple, this is a married couple where they're making like 60 and 70 and both working. This is
right.
who this potential target could be.
Or a single person, either way, because a married
or a
couple.
single person making that amount on their own.
So a married couple
right?
Combined, you're millionaires, but separate, you guys get divorced or something, you're not.
Yeah, but he would not be in the camp of people getting divorced.
I'm not. I'm just saying, individually, you're not millionaires. As a couple, jointly on your taxes, you are. But you remember, 2 people are now living off that money, as opposed to a single person who just be one. So it's not as great as it sounds. Now, if you're doing that in 10 years, you got to save $28,000, $492 a year, which means you got to be making $189,947, so $190,000 a year as a single person, or not a single person in 10 years. If you want to do that in 10 years versus 12. So let's see. What did while I was doing that, I looked this up. Okay, here we go. So let's look this. I don't know what this site is, but DQYDJ. No. Let's see. Average median, top 1%. Okay, individual incomes. Right here. So in this graph, which I'm going to screw this up every fucking time. I know it. Let's do that. Did that work? There we go. Is that a little bit better? Can you see that okay? Or
Still kind of small. I don't know. Can we make it a little bigger? There we go. That's way better.
there. Okay. So this is individual income percentile. So this is individuals. So individuals, you have to be in the here 135,253 for 2021. Yeah, and
Yep, so that's roughly that one.
yeah, 132. So this one here, so you have to be in the top 10% of earners in the United States as an individual. And that's for the 12-year plan. Okay. So that's where you have to be in the top 10%. You have to be in the top 10% if you want to be able to do Dave's plan. Let's see what it says for a couple. Oh, it's a calculator. So let's do that. 1, 3, 8, 1, 2, 3. Couple, you got to be 77th percentile, so you got to be in the top 23% of households. So you have to be less than 1 in 5. So Dave's not talking to you unless you're rich. This doesn't apply. It's fairy dust. He just promised you a fantasy. Unless you're rich. And I guarantee you, people that are making that kind of money a year are probably not watching Dave Ramsey. They're probably hiring somebody like me to manage that amount of money. So it's bullshit. He's promising something that can't be delivered, right? On top of that, you can look at just $500,000, right? And you got to remember, in 10 years, $500,000 is going to be worth less than it is today because of inflation, which we talked about earlier today. So $500,000 in 10 years is only going to be worth about $350,000, less than that. So you're still not a millionaire by today's standards, right? So this whole thing is it's a sleight of hand. He's showing you one thing and promising you one thing, but the thing you're actually going to get, or that's even possible to get, you can't really achieve unless you're one of these people making this kind of money. And you can afford to save that much. So the whole thing is bullshit. He just lied. He's just making shit up. He doesn't know the numbers. And that's the problem. I mean, he's been doing this for 30 plus years. It took me, 2 minutes to run this on my calculator? But he's the financial expert. I mean, that's what kills me about this whole fucking thing. It's so stupid. I don't know that we need to watch any more of that. I mean, it's just going to be horseshit after that. I mean...
Well, I wonder, wait, how long is this clip? I wonder if he gets to a point where he actually says anything that looks like math.
I doubt it.
Does any math actually happen?
They almost never do math, and when they do, half the time they screw it up. We can watch a little bit more. Let's see what they... I bet it's just...
Yeah, 9 minutes is a long time. I don't know if we want to watch 9 full minutes.
Well, I've got it sped up. I don't want to watch... She's going to talk for the length of a Bible. Yeah, a lot of it just her talking at this point. Look, just her. See what...
Good line. I like this.
And a lot of you are going to look up, Dave said the stats on getting through baby step 2. Most people who get through baby step 1 through 3, it's 2.5 to 3 years. That sounds a lot when you just say it. But man, that is just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it's just more sales pitch.
And some
shit.
of you who've been kicking your student loan can down the road for 3
Come
years,
on, baby.
you could have been done and finished.
Yeah, they're just selling their product. That's all it is for the next 9 minutes. It might as well just be an infomercial. But he lies right out of the gate. You can do this 10 to 12 years. Bullshit. That's bullshit. And I know viewers are going to sit there and go, well, no, I mean, maybe what if it was 20 years, right? Well, you can do 20 years real quick. We'll do that at that interest rate. 20 years, you'd have to save $7,000 a year, which is more doable, right?
That's more doable.
Right, but you're assuming you're getting 12.
More people do that.
But that's assuming you're getting 12% interest, which you're probably not, right? But here's the deal: the spending power of $500,000 in 20 years is only worth about $240,000. So in today's dollars, you've only saved 240 grand, and then that's 20 years. So you're still not anywhere near where you want to be. I mean, you're 200 grand, 250 grand, but that's about it. You know? So it's once again, it's pie in the sky promise shit. It's not realistic. He's promising you some sort of prosperity that's just it's not going to come at that rate. Which is why we keep telling everybody the thing that changes this, the thing that really changes this is not how much you cut your budget or how much you save, it's how much you make. That's the thing that really changes things for your life. You know, it's smart to cut your budget and live within your means and to save money. Yeah, you should absolutely be doing that all the time. But change your life shit, it's not as much as you think. Not as much as they promise. And the beautiful thing is nobody complains because it's always, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. You know, who comes back and complains after 10 years? Almost nobody. That's the beauty of it. So, yeah, just all horse shit. But anyway, I don't know. That was kind of a fun one. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on that? I mean, you nailed it down.
I want to add, I am giving myself a double win there.
Okay.
Because I not only called that this was basically just going to be the baby steps before we even pushed play on a video I've never seen. But then I was able to go and tell you what his strategy even within that was going to be with the how he gets millionaire status. So I am declaring a double win. That is
a double win. I'm going to declare a win because, I mean, I just proved this whole fucking thing and it took me less than 2 minutes on a calculator.
I'm going to give you the win because you did math.
There you go. Extra win for math.
That might be like the wimpiest win ever because if it's a win just for doing math, but he didn't do any math.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing that, like, if I see somebody who claims to be a financial expert or a financial advisor giving advice and they can't even use a fucking financial calculator, I'm sorry. I mean, they don't know what they don't know what they're doing. It's like a lawyer who can't write. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. It's like a doctor without a stethoscope. I mean, it's just, man, your blood pressure is great. You didn't even take it. Don't need to.
Just seems great. You said you ate a lot of broccoli, so
Yeah.
I deem it great because that was a part of the plan.
Yeah. You save 50%, you'll be a millionaire in 10 years. You don't even know how much I'm saving. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You also ate broccoli, even better.
What was that George Campbell video where the TikTok girl disproved the savings thing that he was railing against? And she just proves it. She gives all the math, and then he comes back and goes, "All right, everybody, just ignore the numbers." And we're like,
You're like, I feel like we don't want to do that.
right. I know you want to because you'll look like an idiot, but but that ship has sailed, crashed, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean, buddy. You are an idiot. I mean, it doesn't help to go, don't look at the numbers. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Ignore him. So, anyway, good show. Where can everybody catch you, Lacey?
All right, you can catch me at mysensewithsense.com. You can find out about upcoming courses, workshops, or find blog posts from me. If you want further information about any of that, you can write into me, or you can write into us collectively to suggest topics, maybe send us some clips you want us to check out, maybe tell us something in the news you want us to talk about, or if you've made a video that you want us to address, maybe we will.
Yeah.
Where can they send that?
You can email us at gossipfinance80@outlook.com. Next week, we're going to do student loans, so join us for that because we're going to go pretty comprehensive on what's going on in those arguments with the Supreme Court. And then other than that, everybody have a great week, and thanks for watching, and we will catch you guys later. Please like and subscribe and all that jazz. Have a good day.